In the darkest corners of a fur farm where cages rattled and hopeless cries filled the air, rescuers stumbled upon a tiny German Shepherd puppy. Frail, trembling, and barely alive, he had never felt grass under his paws or warmth in his heart. His future seemed sealed in cruelty, until a pair of gentle hands lifted him from the shadows. But what no one expected was where his journey would lead. Because this fragile, broken pup wouldn't just survive, he would find a family among a pack of strong, majestic huskies who taught him how to run, how to trust, and how to love again. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The puppy's life began in the shadows of misery. Born in a fur farm, he never saw the sun, never felt grass under his paws. The stench of fear clung to the air, cages stacked on cages with animals too weak to bark. His tiny body shivered in the cold, his eyes wide, pleading silently for a touch of kindness that never came. Each day blurred into the next, metal bars, scraps of food, and the cries of others echoing through the dark. Workers passed by without noticing his trembling frame. He watched siblings disappear one by one, and though he was too young to understand, instinct told him something terrible. Loneliness settled heavy in his chest, deeper than hunger or thirst. But even in despair, the puppy clung to life. His eyes held a flicker of stubborn will, as though he knew this wasn't the end of his story. Somewhere beyond the rusted walls and chains, there had to be more. His heart beat with a fragile hope, waiting for the day someone might hear his silent cry, a cry that would soon reach the right ears and change his fate forever. The day everything changed began with a whisper of footsteps and the creak of rusty doors. Animal rescuers armed with flashlights and heavy hearts stepped into the fur farm. The sight that greeted them was unbearable, rows of cages filled with hollow eyes and broken spirits. But among the countless cries, one pair of eyes stood out, a German Shepherd puppy, his tiny body pressed against cold bars, trembling yet staring straight at them with desperate hope. One rescuer knelt, her breath catching as she reached toward the frightened pup. He recoiled at first, conditioned by cruelty to expect pain, but something in her gentle voice made him pause. For the first time he leaned forward, sniffing her hand. The moment was fragile, one heartbeat of trust against years of fear. The rescuer whispered, "We've got you now, little one," as tears welled in her eyes. With careful hands, they lifted him from the cage. His body was lighter than expected, his ribs sharp against their fingers. The puppy buried his face in the rescuer's jacket, too weak to bark, but his silence spoke volumes. Around them, the team worked quickly, opening cages, carrying animals to freedom. But it was this small German Shepherd who became the symbol of that day's mission, proof that even the most broken souls can still be saved. The puppy's first night in safety was unlike anything he had ever known. Instead of the stench of cages, he smelled clean blankets and felt the warmth of gentle hands. At first he refused to eat, staring blankly at the bowl placed before him. Trauma had taught him not to trust, not even kindness. Yet when one rescuer softly placed a piece of food near his nose, he cautiously licked it, his first step toward believing life could change. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the cracks in his spirit began to heal. His tail, once limp with despair, gave the smallest wag when volunteers entered his room. At night he no longer whimpered in fear, but curled into the blanket as though discovering what comfort meant. He even barked for the first time, startling the staff, then wagged his tail shyly as though apologizing. That bark became a symbol. It wasn't aggression, it was his voice returning. Each morning brought a new milestone. The rescuers noticed how he walked a little taller, how his eyes no longer darted with constant suspicion. They nicknamed him Bruno, a name that carried strength and hope. For the first time, the puppy dared to play, pouncing clumsily on a toy ball. In that moment, surrounded by laughter, Bruno wasn't a victim anymore. He was a survivor, one who was finally beginning to live. Bruno's recovery reached a turning point the day he was introduced to the Husky pack. The rescuers believed he needed not just human love, but also the companionship of dogs who could teach him how to be a puppy again. As the gate opened to the large grassy yard, 4 majestic Huskies bounded forward, their coats shining, their eyes bright. Bruno froze, his small body trembling, unsure if this was another threat or the beginning of something new. The Huskies circled him with curious sniffs, their tails wagging slowly. Bruno's ears pinned back and he crouched low, bracing for rejection. But instead of aggression, one husky gently nudged his side, another playfully bowed, inviting him to join. The rescuers held their breath, watching as Bruno inched forward, his paws hesitant yet drawn to the warmth of their welcome. For the first time, he wasn't seen as weak or broken. He was treated as one of them. Then something remarkable happened. Bruno's tail gave the smallest wag, and within seconds the yard filled with the sound of joyous barking. The huskies darted across the grass, and Bruno followed clumsily, his paws stumbling but his spirit soaring. The pack accepted him instantly, showing him that family didn't have to be bound by blood. Watching him run beside them, the rescuers realized Bruno had found his place, and with it the life he was always meant to live. Life with the huskies changed Bruno in ways no one expected. At first he trailed behind, his steps clumsy and unsure, but the pack never left him behind. They slowed their pace, nudged him forward, and taught him the unspoken rules of family. With every game of chase, every shared meal, Bruno grew bolder. The timid pup who once cowered in cages now barked with pride, his voice rising confidently among his new brothers and sisters. The huskies became his teachers. They showed him how to dig joyfully in the dirt, how to howl at the moon, and how to tumble in playful battles. When Bruno stumbled, one would nudge him up again. When fear flickered in his eyes, they circled around protectively until his tail wagged once more. Slowly his posture changed, head high, ears perked, chest strong. He wasn't the broken puppy from the farm anymore. The bond between them was unshakable. At night, Bruno nestled close, his small body pressed against thick husky fur, wrapped in warmth and safety. For the first time in his life, he belonged. Watching him transform, the rescuers marveled at the healing power of love, not just human compassion, but the loyalty of a pack that had claimed him as their own. Bruno was no longer surviving. He was thriving. Months later, Bruno was unrecognizable from the fragile pup rescued from the fur farm. His coat gleamed in the sunlight, his steps were steady, and his eyes sparkled with joy. Running alongside the huskies, he no longer lagged behind. He led the charge across snowy fields and open trails. To see him racing with confidence, ears flying and tail wagging, was to witness a miracle born out of survival and love. The husky pack had become his true family. They played together, ate together, and rested together as one. Bruno learned to trust fully, no longer flinching at sudden sounds or retreating from touch. He had discovered what freedom meant, not just in wide open spaces, but in the bonds of belonging. Each howl that echoed with the pack was his voice declaring, "I am home." Word of his transformation spread, inspiring countless hearts. His story was shared as a symbol of resilience, proof that even from the darkest beginnings, hope can flourish. The rescuers often visited, their eyes shining with pride at the pup who had once been so broken. Bruno's journey was complete, not just rescued, but reborn. And every time he curled beside his husky siblings, his story whispered a truth the world needed to hear. Family is where love lives.